So it's time to move on to probably the topic you will find the most fun with, which is your hobby area.
Yes. So I grew up going to a lot of art museums and galleries with my parents. And over time, I wanted to get my hands dirty. And I ended up learning how to play with paper. So early in my life, we went to Italy and I was exposed to this gorgeous marble paper that you can see handmade. I'm holding it up for the camera if we ever get you to see this. So I have a lot of this kind of paper. But eventually, I fell in love with a paper crafting journal from Japan. And it's called the Midori Traveler's Journal. And this is the actual package I'm holding up of a Midori journal. And this is a virgin one that's never been used. This is called the Traveler's Notebook. And as you know, people in Japan are notorious for being great photographers, loving to take pictures. This is the sort of journal that would be used. This is a lined journal. It's 5 inches by 8 inches. And people would take these on trips, write their notes, put their pictures in. And now that we have iPhones that take pictures and little HP pocket printers, Hewlett-Packard Sprocket, I travel with all the time and have the little Instagram-sized film paper for it. And you end up then, this is the journal I created from Seneca Lake a couple weeks ago, but I write, look at that sunset. I mean,
beautiful.
Can you believe that? And so you print out these Instagram-sized pictures. I'm holding this up. Here's a brochure from Sonnenberg Gardens. But anyway, these are the journal I create for my mental health. And I do them on trips like that. But then I also do them, here's my July journal, Jill, and I do them daily. So this is the journal I created last month for July. And then every day I'll write one thing I'm grateful for. So tonight, before we hang up, I'm going to take a picture of us on Zoom. And you will be in my journal tonight, my dear. But here are different things that happened to me last month. So the reason this is important to me is I do meditate as well every day, at least for 20 minutes. This becomes a kind of meditating. It becomes a mindfulness. And particularly in times like the pandemic or when you lose somebody, it becomes a way to get away from digital. And this is real paper. This is real scrapbooking. This isn't digital scrapbooking, which a lot of people do, and I'm not dissing it. But for me, this becomes therapeutic. So that in March, when the COVID virus was called a pandemic by the World Health Organization, March 11th, I remember the day, I started this, my ABC COVID journal. And A is for Amazon, all the way to Z is for Zoom. And this journal became important to me. My husband was stuck in Europe for a few weeks and finally got home from Brussels on March 20th. But I started to use the journal as a way to deal with my stress and my anxiety in the early days of the pandemic when we didn't know a whole lot. We were stuck at home. I live in Pennsylvania, so Governor Wolf mandated we shelter at home. Of course, I telework, and I've teleworked for 20 years or more. But it was a new kind of flow. So for me, paper crafting and especially journaling is a way for mind, body, spirit to come together. And then at the end of it, you have pretty things to look at and to revisit. I also want to just point out that recently, in the Black Lives Matter moment, I belong to some subscription services, one's called Studio Calico, and this one is from Allie Edwards. But this is like Black Lives Matter cards and empowerment cards, today's checklist, donate to Black Lives Matter, facilitate family discussions. They're just beautiful. And this was done by a Black woman artist who scrapbooks. Here's one, in unity there is strength. So you can use journaling for any number of applications. It can be for political stress. It can be for mental stress. It can be for your love life, for your sex life, for your skincare, for travel. I just do journals for lots of reasons. And sometimes I'll make a I'll make one for a friend that's like blank, but it'll have neat pictures in it, neat graphics and things. So for me, the crafting is meditative. And when we talk about anti-aging and just health, artful pursuits, I think, are very important for balancing this digital life that we live.
I love this. First of all, you're giving me ideas. I've been sort of on a weight loss journey, a frustrating one, but one. Age is definitely coming into play here, and I wish that I started. I'm going to now because I take pictures sometimes, with my iPhone, but I love the idea of like visually seeing it just for myself. In some sort of like hardbound something.
And it's important.
And I think this is a great idea for especially parents and moms, since we're talking to a lot of women here that have little ones, and they don't have to be too little, but that have kids. What a great way to simply, your stuff is beautiful. I'm not an artist, but I love the idea of like doing our gratitude that way, not just verbally at night, so that, Brody, my son, would have something to look back upon. I love this idea. Okay. I'm going to check out some of these resources that you mentioned.
Yes. And I list on here jet pens for the Japanese journal. Jet pens.
Okay.
Pens is a U.S.-based company, but they carry the Japanese stuff. So you can get it from them. The journals themselves are $5-6 once a month. I buy a new one. And so they're very inexpensive. And just for Brody and kids, what's very exciting is if you invest in the Sprocket printer, which is about $100 on Amazon, the HP Sprocket, you get the pictures off of your phone. And it uses this little film. It's like the new Polaroid kind of film. And there are 10 pictures in the back of this. And on Amazon, again, each picture works out to about 40 cents. So you put this film into the Sprocket, and it's Bluetooth, and you print it right away. So it's instant gratification for the kids. And those darn pictures are not stuck in the phone. So I think it's a good lesson because have a fun experience. You print out the picture, you write down the zoo was such a blast today, saw the new pandas, or, oh, I love the spaghetti I made. Here's the recipe. Whatever in the moment is joyful. I write about food a lot. I
love this.
Brussels sprouts the other day.
What a great idea. What an awesome idea. So hold on a second. I don't know why. Get a little froggy here. Okay, so next area, which is something I can guarantee we are all missing, is services. So like favorite services, and hopefully we'll get some tips on maybe way we can substitute at home.
Yes. So for the better part of 5 months, I guess, I never got my pedicure. And I have an awesome technician who works on my feet in Wayne, Pennsylvania, suburban Philly, at Ame Spa and Salon. Well, they reopened in late July, and I went a couple weeks ago for my first pedicure, and it's quite distanced, and we're all wearing masks, and they only take 2 customers in the room at a time, the pedicure room. And I'm telling you, my feet never felt as good as when I went back after all those months. So the kind of pedicure that I like is, of course, get your feet soaked and everything and slough off all the alligator skin. But then Anne-Marie wraps my feet in big plastic bags that have hot paraffin wax in them. And she wraps the bag around and packs it in tight. And for 10, 15 minutes, each of my feet are in one bag with lots of hot wax solidifying around them. The heat radiates from the sole of the foot all the way up through the legs to the knees. It's magical. So the heat and the hydration of the wax. And then she comes back and takes the wax off and uses hot stones and massages my legs from the knee down with hot stones. And it's magical. let me talk about the wax. So you don't need to go see Anne Marie for this. You can, I found a site I sent to Jill with 11 reviews of hot wax or paraffin wax spas. These big bowls that, hook into the wall, heat up, and you buy the paraffin wax. It's quite inexpensive, the wax. Again, you can get it on a beauty supply store online or via Amazon or Walmart or your favorite. Some come perfumed in lavender or vanilla or different fruit scents anyway, or unscented. And you can get one of these at home to dip your hands in, and some of them are big enough to dip your feet in. And I would urge you to get the one big enough for your feet also. The hands too. My husband has some arthritis in his hands. We're speaking of aging. And so he loves when the wax is on and available to stick his hands in there and put a plastic bag on each hand. And just like Anne Marie wraps my feet, Robert can put a Ziploc on each hand and kind of, fasten it to his wrist for 15, 20 minutes. And that heat really helps the arthritic pain. And as we get older, we're going to have pain in lots of places in our body, but particularly our extremities, hands and feet. So check out those sites. You can buy them for as cheap, this gear for as cheap as $35-$40 up to nearly $200 for a professional model. I have an old Remington model that was maybe $50, and then the wax is $10 or $20 that lasts for months. So it's a wonderful investment, because one of these pedicures at a salon can be $70-$80 on the East Coast. So highly recommend paraffin wax.
I love that idea. And I've noticed that the older I get, the rougher my feet have gotten, and it might just be like, hard labor or something. But like I've noticed that it keeps getting like worse and worse and worse every year. So I would imagine the paraffin would also, like, it's got to be beautifully soft, right? Like soften your skin.
It's so sexy. Oh yeah. After you do it and you just feel your own feet, or if you've got somebody you're sleeping with, they'll see how sexy your feet feel. And I'm no foot fetishist, but man, it feels so soft. Change the sheets that day, nice, crisp, cool. Go in with your new paraffin waxed feet. I mean, aging dehydrates every part of the body, including the soles of the feet. So we want to keep our feet well moisturized as well. So whatever you use on your elbows, I use often Peter's Roth. We didn't talk about this for skincare, but he does a nice a peeling pad for the face, and I'll do that on my elbow and sometimes on my feet. It's got really good ingredients, so you can use what you use on your face on your feet if they really need that extra care.
That's excellent. That's a great idea. So our last category is nutrition and kitchen and sort of anything involving stuff that we ingest.
Absolutely. So, going way back to Hippocrates, let food be thy medicine and medicine be thy food. But really, food is medicine. We can't adopt that enough these days because there's so much crap marketed as real food, particularly if you have children. So the more you can get your kids to eat not white stuff, not white sugar, not white flour from very young, it's a smart thing to do. That's Dr. Green, the pediatrician's advice online. And I've known Dr. Green since I was on the internet for healthcare 20 years ago. So he's into sort of the no white food for babies kick. And Dr. Lustig, who I'm conversant with online as well, is a big fan of that. We have to look at food as, the staff of life, right? So the kitchen becomes part of the health hub of the home. If we can keep the kitchen healthy, then it's healthy for us, it's healthy for our families, and it's a virtuous cycle. Once you introduce bad stuff in the kitchen, you're going to eat it. It's there. So try to have lots of fresh produce, fresh vegetables, eat the Mediterranean diet, if, which is not really a diet, it's just a style of food, or if you could look it up as the DASH diet in healthcare, but the Mediterranean pyramid is smart. Anyway, the kitchen, the Vitamix is our go-to appliance. And I would say for my husband, even more than me, he loves his Vitamix. Like it is, he loves making soup in the Vitamix. And the fun thing about the Vitamix, there's this miraculous thing that happens, particularly in the winter when you want hot soup. You can just blanch some carrots or some butternuts or bake some butternut squash. You literally throw it in the Vitamix with a little chicken broth or vegetarian broth, and you start the Vitamix going, whoosh, 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 whoosh. It heats up. The centrifugal force of that thing, the physics of the Vitamix, makes hot soup. There is not a heating element in it. It's physics. It's like so exciting. So Robert will make like fresh carrot soup with fresh ginger. And if you have a cold, that ginger is so good in the winter. Or butternut squash, one of my favorites in there. And then in the summer, I like to throw in watermelon, tomatoes, and then you put that together and you make a watermelon gazpacho. Smooth, cold, and cucumber. Delicious. So, I mean, Vitamix is awesome as a healthy appliance. The other sort of technology, non-tech, but the thing that I must recommend are the OXO tools, OXO. And those you can find anywhere. They're ubiquitous. My Wegmans grocery store carries them. The high-end kitchen stores, Williams Sonoma, which I love. And then, of course, Amazon has an OXO store, and OXO.com does direct to you and has lots of good sales. So if talking about aging well and enjoying the kitchen, the can opener on OXO and the jar opener, which is like a black plastic triangle that you slide onto the side of a jar, and literally it hooks in there with some plastic teeth, and you can open the jar like magic. Like, it's amazing.
And it adjusts to the jar size lid? Oh, I need that.
Triangle with teeth, and you slip it in so it can go to a big jar like a spaghetti sauce jar or a little jar of capers, which is quite tiny. So, and what's nice about the OXO tools are they're not expensive, but they're value. So they're not cheap. They aren't cheap like Walmart cheap, but they're value. And I think they're worth the money. So the jar opener is probably $10. I just had to replace my metal steamer basket that goes into big pots because I'm using it so much these days. And I bought the OXO that has a cute little handle on it and then legs on the bottom, these metal wire legs.
I love those.
So you pull it out and you don't burn yourself, which again, have to avert kitchen emergencies. So I'm a big fan of the OXO tools for aging and safety in the kitchen.
Excellent. Are there any sort of like supplements that you sort of have in your daily routine that you kind of always have in there?
Yeah, so I'm really science-based when it comes to what I ingest as a vitamin or supplement. And I have a doctor, a GP that I love, who's really my partner in my health. So he took me off of almost all supplements a couple years ago because I try to eat my vitamins. Mm-hmm. But at stressful times, I return to St. John's wort, for which there is much evidence out of Europe. So I spent a lot of time in Europe. Germany in Germany, doctors will prescribe St. John's wort before they'll prescribe fluoxetine or an anti-anxiety medication as a step therapy. So I have doubled up on my emotional balance from Gaia is the manufacturer, Gaia, and emotional balance is mostly St. John's wort with a few other things for calming you, some mints, MINTs, maybe chamomile. I'm not sure what else is in there. I should know. But Emotional Balance is the brand that I use. Anyway, you could just do straight St. John's wort, which is where clinical trials have been done. And in Europe, as I say, it's very common for people to take St. John's wort for anxiety and mild depression. And so I've been taking one of the guys in the morning, the emotional support they're called, and one at night. That is the normal dose for that brand.
2 times a day. 2 times a day.
Yeah,
okay.
Morning with my breakfast, and then after dinner, after I've eaten. They're little sort of black capsules. I don't know if they're working, but I can tell you I'm feeling pretty good in the pandemic. So I think I would say that I would not stop taking them right now because I think they're helpful. And they're not a placebo. There is an effect that has been proven with St. John's wort. So of any supplement that's out there, that's the one I can say has clinical evidence. And in much of the world, St. John's wort is taken before you would take a fluoxetine, which would be generic for depression or something like that.
Yeah, I do deal with depression and have. I am treated now, but I remember that was the step for me that you started with that. Unfortunately, mine was a little bit more severe, but but I love the idea that those that are sort of feeling uncertain, especially now in this time, that this is something safe they can turn to that doesn't require a doctor. There's nothing dangerous about it, that most people don't need antidepressants. Most people have some imbalances going on, but they may not be considered clinical. So
I think for low to medium level anxiety and depression, something like that, coupled with a little more exercise and activity, even if you're running in place in front of the mirror, like in Frost Nixon, when Nixon's running in the mirror, I call it the Nixon runs because it's so bloody hot out here. It's hard to exercise outside. So I've been known to do silly things inside the house, jumping jacks, lots of the Orange Theory things online now, which is great. There's a lot of generous exercisers helping us out in the pandemic. So if you couple the supplement, exercise, and then eating right. So like white carbs don't generally help a mood, but lots of fresh food. Fish is always magical, certain fishes, and really good fresh produce. You can do a lot on your own, but always seek help. If you feel you need it, reach out. This is the time. Telemental health is blowing up in a good way. You don't have to worry about having access to a therapist in your neighborhood, in your zip code. You can go online to one of the telemedicine companies, telehealth companies, and access a visit. And even Walmart now has online mental health for $45 for 45 minutes and $60 for the first 60-minute visit. So really,
that's amazing.
It's fantastic.
So for sure, I'm so glad you brought that up. It's something I'm definitely going to dive into in another podcast. But I am going to list just a couple resources in here that are ways that you can connect with what Jane was just talking about, which is telepsychiatry or telemental health or whatever you want to call it. You don't have to be medicated and need medication to receive it. This is your opportunity to get access to the care you need from the comforts of your own home. And I am so excited about the growth in this area. So I'll put a couple links. I don't have a favorite, so I'm not going to tell you what my favorite is, but I do think there are a number of them that are doing really good things. So I'll definitely put those in the notes. Jane, Great. This is amazing. I'm going to ask you one more thing right before we sign off, because this was like meaty, maybe meaty enough for 2 episodes. So tell me, if you look ahead, what are you most excited about in sort of the area that Wicked Awesome You is covering and Anti-Aging Anti-Aging Uncensored is talking about? If you had to look ahead, what are you most excited about for women?
Women are the chief health officers of their families. Whether you're single, married, single mom, single, women make health decisions more than men do. So women need to feel empowered and ready for that role. And increasingly, we have the resources in our hands through our phones, online, as long as we have broadband, right? We've got to make sure all the girls in our life and women can afford their data plans so they can link to the internet and be connected. I'm most excited that we can start to integrate all these resources in our homes, in our hands, and have access to data from different places, which makes it interoperable for us, integrates our data in one place. So you mentioned the Aura app, but increasingly there are companies out there, one's called Validic, which is starting to bring data together from your medical claim, your lab data, to your fitness data, your wellness data, your sexual health data, your food data, your sleep data. Now, when we have that happening, and it's happening, but for the mainstream, probably 2 or 3 more years, and a lot of that depends on health politics and resources that go toward data interoperability. It's coming. I just don't want it to happen for just rich white ladies, rich white men. I want it to happen for everybody, which is why I'm so excited about the Walmarts of the world, the CVS, Aetna, Walgreens having its investment in VillageMD, the primary care practices next to the pharmacies. We got to put this in the hands of mainstream people who then can care for the people they love and themselves. This is happening. This retail health revolution. And that's what I'm spending a lot of my time on at work these days.
Well, Jane, you are amazing, as I knew you would be, but I love what you shared with us. I love the balance of the way that you've sort of like built your own life, and everyone, chooses what they want to focus on. But this is such a nice balance. And these are things that can be integrated and can build routines about, and integrate into their life on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis. So I am so excited to share this episode with everyone. Thank you, my dear friend.
Thank you. Virtual hug.
Virtual hug to you.